Let's quickly go to Port Harcourt. We have Austin Jonah, the state chairman of Trade Union Congress, joining us. Mr. Jonah, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on the Morning Crossfire here in Lagos. Hearing, we understand that the negotiation is still ongoing, but what do you know so far?
Morning. Good morning. We are in touch with our national body. We are in touch with those that are negotiating. We are waiting for a go-ahead. All of them are shifting grounds. Even Labour has shifted. The government has also shifted grounds based on what we are looking. They are looking at the gray areas, one or two places to touch and maybe finalize. If by 12 p.m. in the night today, nothing happens, then we'll go ahead.
And if you have any information to that effect, what are the, you said Labour has shifted grounds. What is the current ground that Labour is on right now?
Well, we are still negotiating. We are negotiating. It was 29% and 24% before. But it is not cast in stone. We will still look at it and know what to do about that. That is part of negotiation. And at the end of the day, it will be a win-win situation.
Let's clarify something. Currently, right now, what is the position of the Trade Union Congress as regards the backing out of ULC, United Labour Congress, from the negotiation?
You see, when it comes to negotiation, everybody has the interest of their workers and their trade centers in mind. And we cannot back out as Trade Union Congress by this time, because if we back out means we are not doing the right thing and we have disappointed those that are believing and trusting in us. Therefore, ULC backing out, well, we will not see it as something that is different, but that is their own position. They've taken their stand. They said even the strike is dead before arrival. But it's not the issue. If you are leading people, you should be patient enough to see that you pass through, no matter the rigorosity that you are going to pass through, to see that the people get what they are looking for.
What is the list that Labour can, at least the Organised Labour right now, can accept from the federal government? Because we're hearing that the federal government is proposing something like 11%.
11 will not go. I know this federal government will do more than that, because they are also looking for something from the Nigerian public. And that is, they want to increase some things and do some things that will generate more fund. But not only generating fund, they should look at the cost of governance. The cost of governance in this country is very high. Today I was looking at the 2020 budget, and the what was allocated for maintenance and fueling of generators is about 9 billion. That is on the high side. If we have electricity, we don't need to spend 9 billion to maintain and fuel generators.
Because the argument, has been made as to why government, especially legislators, should look at their own take-home pay as well. If we're going to free up resources, we should collectively look at what people, the chunk of our budget that people dip their hands into, the legislators, for instance, even the ministers and their aides and all of those things. Would you subscribe to a unicameral legislature? Like, let's just have one assembly instead of the Senate and the House of Reps in order to free up resources?
If you are practicing presidential system, although I would, to an extent, I would want to subscribe, but the system we are practicing said we need to have bicameral legislature. Therefore, what I will advise is that is either they cut down their salary bill, or they put them on allowance. They put them on allowance. Reduce if you can't go for 50% reduction. I think it's in Namibia or Zimbabwe or so. The legislators, because of what is happening, the economic condition, the economic situation in the country, decided to cut down their salary. The same thing can happen in Nigeria. If they don't want to cut down their salary to 50%, because if you calculate according to the figures, what a member of the House of Reps is earning is about 26 million times 250 or 350 of them. That is a chunk of money that can go into so many things. So if from 26 million you reduce it to 13 million, or they go for allowances that then the two houses can remain. But if they don't want to go to that, and if they don't want to consider that, then I'm supporting Dr. Faremi of Ekiti State that we don't need.
We support that we don't need two parliaments or legislative chambers.
The Senegalese parliament legislated to drop one chamber because the cost was too much. In Nigeria, not only is the cost too much, the overall package is too much, whether it is one chamber or two. That's part of the problem. So the problem is not just that we have two chambers, to the extent that it may even be a problem at all. The problem is that the package for the two chambers is outrageous.
The overall resources that go into the two chambers. If ordinary
workers, so anytime you ask a member of National Assembly about it, they will say, oh no, but their actual salary is just a few 100,000 a month. That it is the allowances and packages that takes it to 14 million a month. Oh, how I wish the rest of us had those kind of packages that takes everything to 14 million a month and the allowances.
Indeed.
So that's the real problem. But in addition to that, you have this crazy scenario of pension for life for public officials adjusted to meet the current cost, the current pay of the incumbent. And we are getting this thing across governorship, deputy governorship. The situation is so absurd that even the Abuja Municipal Council just recently awarded themselves the same pension for life at outrageous standard. So, I mean, just imagine, by the time we have this accumulated costs of multiple layers of elected officials awarding themselves that kind of package, even in the parliament, people will be believing they will get a jumbo package for going. They will come back in 2 months' time and get another jumbo package for coming back. So one of our friends, who's reasonable, sound guy, explained the thing to us in a private conversation. He's a member of the House of Reps. And it's someone that I have a lot of respect for. He explained, he said, well, the reason why it was put, that welcome package was put there, was so that if a poor person is elected to parliament,
right,
they won't end up living under a tree in Abuja when they arrive. And I thought, okay, from a certain point of view, it makes sense. But other people have argued that wouldn't it just be easier just to set up a permanent quarters for all of them, which will not be discarded after some time.
Right.
So that when you come, you are allocated, flat this, block that, and your accommodation. So, there are two sides.
And that saves a lot of money.
And that saves a lot of money straight away, And then the other things, do they all need cars? Official cars purchased for them? No, they don't. So I can see the argument for if you arrive and you are an ordinary person, you don't need to live under the tree.
Right.
But other people have argued that, but there are other ways to resolve that problem in such a way that people are not getting incredible amounts of cash. And if people, at the end of a parliament, they get send-off gift, and if they are returned, they are already in Abuja.
Right.
They get another welcome one. So you can see multiple layers like that, which don't, it just doesn't help. And if you look at the executive, they all live in free houses, free light, free water. person on the phone was just pointing out that 9 billion is being budgeted for generator. 9 billion.
Right.
You know, so I mean, if there is proper electricity, why do government officials have to budget 9 billion for generator and generator fuel?
Mr. Austin, in case you are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm there.
All right, quickly, let's talk about the preparation of labor for this strike, because we don't know what will happen at the end of the day. But would you say that Nigerian workers are prepared to join this strike? Knowing full well that, hold on, Mr. Jenner, in Nigeria, something is always very obtainable. They join first day, second day, and third. Everybody is back out there because they need to feed their family. What would you say that Nigeria, especially workers, are ready to join this strike?
Nigerian workers are massively behind their leaders, and they are ready to join. We have mobilized to the extent that if they say shut down, we will shut down this country. It is not, we are not joking, because this is life or death. This is the only thing that the Nigerian workers is having as a worker, because there is no state government, no federal government that is building houses for their workers. At the end of the day, you retire back to your village. If you don't have anything, in the next 4 or 5 years, you're already off the line. Therefore, if we must fight to get this, to make sure that at least it sustains us to a level, because look at what they are coming up with. VAT has been increased to 7.5. They want to hijack electricity tariff. They want to introduce toll gates again. They want to introduce tax to even SMS, phone call, data, and cable TV. Is a great burden on the workers of this country. The whole country is passing through stress. I think they have to consider certain things before they come up with it, because they promise that
there is this accusation. I'm sorry to butt in. There is also accusation that when labor goes into negotiation, it's almost like there is no particular agreed level, lowest level that labor can go to. If you talk to any worker right now, any civil servant right now, they will tell you that all of these pay increase actually don't have any effective bearing on their take-home pay, because in the end, it still will not matter. I'm glad you mentioned the fact that the federal government is planning to raise taxes and levies and all of those things. In the end, would you factor in all of these impending taxes or increments into your negotiation? Do you think that labor's representatives have factored this in, so that in the end, when the increment is finally approved, workers will not be grumbling that they can't feel any change at all?
If you say labor has not been doing that, you are not saying the right thing, because most of the times we negotiate for all these things, and they will say they will come up with palliative measures to help in transport, in housing, in this. And at the end of the day, they will not be sincere with their promises. That is the issue. And if you agree and you are not implementing, look at how it is taking them to implement the 30,000 minimum wage that was signed into law in April, and they've been rigmaroling, doing all sorts of.
And told you that we will do this, and in the end they did not do those things. Aren't you supposed to hold them accountable as a labor?
We have been doing that by calling them to order, telling them that you promised this and you have not done. When they increased fuel from 80-something to 145, they promised that they are going to come up with palliative measures. At the end of the day, they said, hey, the economy cannot carry it. And they will come up to the public and begin to weave some sentiments. That is what is happening. And some people will listen to them without even placing the facts, the figures on table to see what labor is saying.
I wouldn't bet any reason competence of the labor leadership to mobilize properly for the majority of Nigerian workers. What is mobilizing them is poverty. I mean, sometimes you listen to some of the labor leaders and you really wonder whether they are qualified to hold some of those positions. I mean, there is no doubt that Nigerian workers deserve a better deal, both in terms of income, in terms of housing, health, education, transport. On all those issues, there is no major disagreement. But sometimes, some of the labor leaders make statements that you just wince and wonder. I mean, just look at this morning. After threatening that they are going to go on strike for how long now? You can see some now coming out to say they didn't threaten to go on strike. How can their own workers take them seriously? People say they will go on strike, and suddenly at midnight they will come out and say no, and then they will come out smiling. And you can't really tell what has been achieved, if anything. I think they actually need to see the bigger picture. And aside from just the take-home pay, which everybody is also in agreement is very low and not okay, they also need to pay attention to the bigger picture. As I was saying earlier, in more developed countries, your take-home pay is not the sole determinant of the quality of education.
He said
housing,
now that
healthcare,
they usually
transport.
renege on all of those things. They put all of these things into negotiation, but when it's time for them to implement, the government now, the government renege.
The articulation of the call for those things needs to be done on a better scale. What happens is this. The so-called palliative measure is almost as an afterthought to increase in things like fuel costs. So the government makes an argument for increase in fuel cost and then says there will be a palliative measure of better transport, that's what he's talking about.
Right.
But those things are not well defined. They are not well defined. What labor should be doing is to come out to actually measure those things and say, this is the minimum standard of health everybody should be getting. This is the minimum standard of free and qualitative education everybody should be getting. This is the minimum water supply people should be getting. Those things I argue in an underdeveloped economy are arguably more important than the take-home pay, because in the developed countries, the take-home pay, which is a bit better than in countries like Nigeria, is not even the determinant of the quality
of life.
Of those. Yes, it's not the sole determinant. It is important, but it's not the sole determinant. So I would recommend really that the bigger picture is taken into consideration, and the way the issues are articulated and the reliability is also
the trust.
Yes.
That is where I will come in, because the person in the studio there is talking as if he's not a Nigerian.
Talking as if he's not a Nigerian. The government will promise heaven on earth, and at the end of the day, they will not fulfill any. But they promise that they are taking us to next. Yes, they promise that when they come, that they will reduce the price of fuel. Have they done that?
The government that is not sincere.
You see, you are dealing with a government that is not sincere. That they will even come to negotiate with you, and at the end of we negotiated minimum wage from the beginning of minimum wage in 1981. That whenever the law is passed, there is always this consequential adjustment to other levels. Now they came up and they are floating another kite by saying that it is a general review of wages that will take care of that. Where is it done?
20.
Where is it done?
Please stay on the line. Let's quickly go out to take a cup of water, and we'll be back in a moment. We just need a short break. We'll be back with you. Austin Jonah is the state chapter chairman of the Trade Union Congress. He's joining us from Rivers State, from Port Harcourt, to be specific. I am Sheriff Quadri. Rotimi Sankara is still in the studio. Let's go out now for a break. We'll be right back in a moment. It's the Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Lovely morning to you. Thank you for remaining with us on the program this morning. Austin Jonah is still on the line from Port Harcourt. And we're looking at Labour's negotiation with the federal government. It started yesterday. It will end. Hopefully, it will end today. The negotiation will continue at 2 p.m. today. But we'll be having discussions surrounding, labor, Nigerian workforce, the economy, on the program so far. Rotimi Sankore is still in the studio. Mr. Austin, let me come to you before I let you go, because we have another labor leader joining us from Kano any moment now. Let's talk about another aspect that Nigerian workers are always keen to discuss, very quickly to discuss, and that is the issue of their welfare. And I'm particularly focusing on their health care. There is National Health Insurance Scheme. I am very glad that I'm sure that you know about National Health Insurance Scheme, but workers have been complaining as to the kind of coverage this health scheme actually provides for them. And here we are, we're negotiating take-home pay for Nigerian workers. How about all of these other issues that are supposed to be put on the table? Would you say Labour is doing what it should do as regards the complete welfare of Nigerian worker? If the take-home pay is a definition of Labour's welfare, I don't know what to say to that. But let me hear you. Talk to us about the welfare, especially the healthcare, the National Insurance Scheme, the coverage of this scheme. Are you negotiating with the federal government to have better coverage under the scheme?
Quadri, you know that the scheme is a scheme that it was floated by the federal government to see that not only workers but everybody in Nigeria should benefit from the health sector. But that scheme is not working. It's not working in the sense that there are so many challenges that are facing the scheme that federal government is not looking into. If you are a contributor to that scheme, when you have a serious issue, it is difficult for you to enter into any private clinic, because if you go to any of these government hospitals, they will tell you no drug, no this, no that. You need to buy all those things before you can do any major.
You have an advantage now to negotiate all of these things to make it work.
Yes, we are negotiating, and those are the things we are negotiating.
Yes, we are negotiating, and those are the things we are negotiating. We are negotiating that should work at the state level. So many states have keyed into the program, and even as they key into the program, they are also learning and make sure that the thing work well so that workers can benefit even without money. That you can walk into any of these hospital or private clinics and treat yourself because you are a contributor in the National Health Insurance Scheme. We are also negotiating to see that not only that, but even the contributory pension works. Because as at now, what we are having in contributory pension is not proper. We don't even know what is happening. We don't even know what is happening. So we are also negotiating the minimum wage is just one aspect. We are looking at the welfare of Nigerian workers, not only in health insurance, but also in housing, also in transportation. You said you are giving us rail transport. Do it well. Do it well so that Nigeria, if I live in Obigo, for instance, in Rivers State, if I live in Obigo, I can enter train and come to the secretariat and pay maybe 100 naira and pay another 100 naira to go back. That is what we are negotiating. We are not negotiating only minimum wage. We are negotiating things that will help the Nigerian workers.
So much for speaking with us. We'd like to let you go now. Hopefully we'll hear back from you as soon as negotiations are concluded later today. Austin Jonah is the state chapter chairman of the Trade Union Congress in Rivers State. Austin Jonah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Quadri.
Right then, let's quickly go on now to Kano to go and speak with our correspondents there. I believe they will be with us any moment now. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Oh, fantastic. It's good to have you here. I don't have, very quickly, let me talk to Rotimi very quickly before I come to you. Just in a moment. Rotimi, let's talk about this very quickly. Negotiations. How should it be actually harnessed? So you're talking about take-home pay. Austin Jonah, the TUC chairman from Rivers, just told us that they're negotiating every other thing. We're not getting all of these things in the news report that we have. What we have is the new minimum wage negotiation.
With all due respect, what we have on the table
is new minimum wage.
Is a negotiation about 29% increase for those on grade level 7 to 14 and 24% for those on grade level 15 to 17. I mean, with all due respect, we haven't seen anything else. If he's talking about negotiation for schools, where is the labor demand on for what number of teachers, for what number of schools, for what number of where is the labor demand on healthcare? For what number of primary healthcare centers? Nigeria has a massive shortage of doctors, which we have about 500,000 doctors. We have 40,000. I've not seen Labour speak on it. We are short about 1 million nurses and midwives. We haven't seen them speak on it.
That's how you keep coming back.
Yes, and look, I've not seen Labour say before that relative to population growth, all those indicators and determinants will get worse year on year unless we bridge the gap and then stay ahead of the curve. 8 million children are now born in Nigeria every year. Where are the schools and teachers for them? Where are the vaccinations for them?
Indeed.
I mean, can we see all those things? So look, when we say that Labour has to improve the strategy,
Labour needs to do more.
It is not. It's not because I mean, it is not coming from a position that Labour should not exist. It's coming from a position that for Labour to have relevance, for Labour to have a real impact on the lives of ordinary people, Labour needs to see the bigger picture. So the take-home pay is important. There is a reason why there is minimum wage, so that workers don't sink into poverty. The minimum wage also is supposed to ensure a certain disposable income that can help the economy grow, because if you can't buy goods and services, the economy collapses around you. Absolutely. So on all those things, there is no major disagreement. The issue here is that Labour needs to widen its strategy to include all the social determinants of poverty.
Put them into the discussion.
Yes,
if you're going to any negotiation,
everybody,
put them
whether
into
you are
them.
organized labor or not. Look, if you are middle class, upper middle class, even Dangote, budgets for fuel, for generator.
Right.
It is an overhead cost that most people find intolerable and unacceptable.
Let's go to Kano very quickly, Rotimi. Comrade Abubakar Taminu Durai joins us now. He's the Treasurer, Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria. Comrade Abubakar, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Asked the earlier Labour leader that joined us on the show, what are you hearing as regards the negotiation going on? What do you?
Well, so far the update we are receiving, I think, is very encouraging, because the leadership of the Organised Labour, that is NSC, TUC, and USC, are fully on course, and they are representing the interests of the unions. Negotiation, as you know very well, is something that is continuous unless agreements was reached. Presently, from what we have this morning, is the government has shifted its position, and then the Labour has not accepted, and they have already taken a break, and they are coming back for further negotiations. So we at the union side, we believe 100% on them that at the end of the day, there is going to be a truce, and this matter is going to.
There is no truce at the end of the day. There are insinuations in some quarters that the strategy the federal government employed is to make sure that the strike never commenced today.
Well, the labor leaders themselves, they are also very aware of all these techniques being involved by the government. And then we also want to tell the government that presently, and what is being the general perception in the country is that the government should do the needful. The president has signed this act, and then we expect that from April to date, this minimum wage should have been enjoyed by the workers. But yet, the government is dragging its feet. So whatever at the end of the day comes out, whether in favor or not in favor of the leaders, I think the general public will judge the government.
Wage. Analysts have said that why didn't Labour put all of these consequential adjustment into the negotiation for the minimum wage before you even agree at 30,000 naira? This should have been discussed. This should have been debated. We shouldn't be here. Labour should have negotiated along with the new minimum wage the consequential adjustment of 30,000 naira.
This is not the first time that we're having a minimum wage increase in Nigeria. The previous governments have very, very open, and they have done justice to the increase. So at the time when this act was signed, we thought that the 66.7% increase will automatically be implemented, and the new table will be released so that the civil servants will start enjoying these salaries. But the government involved and then decided to bring another way of delaying the implementation of this bill. You could remember that the president or the labor minister spoke on behalf of the government that the money for this payment of the new minimum wage is not included in the budget. But later we heard that 500 billion naira was involved and is not being appropriated into the budget. So we have a lot of things. It's not labor that it's not that labor is not aware of these things. We're aware, but we are trying to be considerate and at the same time be in the same light with the government to the end.
The Minister of Labour had insinuated earlier on that for government to be able to pay what Labour is demanding, government will have to do some layoffs and let some people go from the civil service.
I totally disagree with that opinion. Why? Because this is the same government that is saying they are going to employ about 100 million Nigerians, which is 10 million naira for a year, 10 million people for a year. And then why will you be going to sack the civil servant at just 86,000? But just 86,000, not the staff strength presently in the federal service. So if really the Honorable Minister is saying this, I think it's contradicting the policy of the government, and then at the same time, it's not helpful matters. Sometimes it is not the message that matters, but the messenger, how he delivered the message. That's what you are going to.
We'll have to let you go now. Thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Crossfire.
Thank you very much. But lastly, I want to implore to
thank you very much. But lastly, I want to implore to all the civil servants and the workers that they should put confidence on the Nigerian Labour Congress, TUC and LC, that at the end of the day, something very meaningful and triple will come out of this.
Thank you for joining us. Comrade Abubakar Taminu Durai joins us from our Kano studio. He's the Treasurer Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria.